Hi, my name is Denise Cooper, and I am a transformational life coach, and I also facilitate sacred juice cleanse retreats based in Peru mainly. And I'm originally from Kansas City in the United States. I was working in the States, and I was working in an office with a cubicle, and I thought so many times there's more to life than this. And I felt this calling, literally a calling, a yearning, a seeking, something deep within me that said there's more to life than this, and that my soul was not meant to stay in an office 9 to 5 and be behind a computer and be in a cubicle farm, like they call them cube farms. And so I decided, one of the things I decided to do was hike on the Appalachian Trail. And so I spent 6 months hiking from Georgia to Connecticut. I didn't get all the way up to Maine, but I spent, like 6 months of my life hiking, backpacking, sleeping on Pachamama, sleeping on Mother Earth, reconnecting to myself. I had felt that modern life, working in offices, had really zapped my energy and zapped my connection to spirit. So I really went into the woods to find myself again. It was so transformational. It was amazing. It was everything. Like, it was times I felt really hot, really cold, really hungry, really scared, really thirsty. I've felt really discouraged at times, really angry, frustrated, but also the total opposite, really happy, blissful, really excited. And the thing that I felt the most was that no matter what was going on while I was hiking, I felt alive. Everything was so intense and so extreme hiking on the Appalachian Trail that I felt alive. And that's what I wanted to feel, because through, following the set path of modern day life, and, in the States, it's, finish high school, then go to college, get married, have 2.3 kids and 2 cars and live in suburbia America, and these things that are, kind of like somewhat, planned out or expected for many of us. That wasn't, I felt like that wasn't what my soul wanted to do. It wanted to go beyond that, and fitting into this square box wasn't my calling. It wasn't my purpose. I wanted to live a life with purpose, and I wanted to feel alive. And so that's the one thing that I felt hiking on the Appalachian Trail, was that I was alive. And so even if I was, had blister on my foot, and I was hungry or thirsty, and maybe town was still another 5 miles to hike to get to, food supply or refill on water or something like that, I was like, well, I feel alive. I don't feel numb. And that's what was happening, is that I was feeling, just by my life, really numb, and I needed adventure, and I needed connection. And so that was one thing that really helped me feel connected again, was to hike on the Appalachian Trail. And from the Appalachian Trail, I got a job in Vermont, and I was working for a hiking company. So I managed 10 different tours all over the world, and one of them happened to be in Peru. So as synchronistic events unfolded, I was asked by the company I was working for in Vermont to go down to Peru to research this new hike to Machu Picchu. So this was great. I was so excited, because I had wanted to go to Peru for like 6 years. It was definitely on my list of places to see for at least 6 years. So it was amazing to manifest a trip that was paid for, and that I got to hike in the Andes and see these star-lit nights that were phenomenal, that still blow my mind, that are just a million stars, and you can see the Milky Way and all sorts of things. And so I had a life-changing experience just coming to Peru. It was such an amazing thing. I didn't even know about plant sacred plant medicine at that time. I didn't know about ayahuasca. Just being here was amazing medicine, and hiking through the Andes. And so that's how I got here. That's what led me to Peru. So I was in Peru for quite a while before I heard about ayahuasca. And, I met a Canadian girl who had told me about it. And she's like, oh, there's this thing called, ayahuasca, these ceremonies, ayahuasca ceremonies. And I was like, oh, okay, cool. And she was, saying how it's like a spiritual thing, and, it's a way to expand your consciousness and all this stuff. And I was like, okay, cool. Yeah. I want to try that at some point. And so it was in my radar at that point. Before coming to South America, to Peru, I had no idea. I'd never heard of ayahuasca. I'd never heard of sacred plant medicines. Nothing. I was completely out of the loop on that. So this was the first I'd ever heard about it. So it was definitely in my radar, and I was like open to it, and was like, okay, great. I would love to try that sometime. I think it sounds like a great thing, and I'm into spiritual things, so it's on my list. So then it was probably close to a year and a half later when, again, synchronistic events happened, and I was able to meet randomly a guy in a cafe who had also knew about ayahuasca, and told me from his heart, like explained it more from a heart chakra experience, like what it was like and how it can help you and what the benefits are. And that's when it really clicked for me. And I felt this, like this knowing and this, okay, I get it now. I understand it. And so I think it was like maybe a couple days later that then I had my first ceremony, and it was amazing. It was, I remember my first two were really beautiful and amazing, gentle, but still really beautiful. And I remember knowing that I'd done this before, and that I'd been in Peru before, and that this was all a remembering for me. So for me, it was a very deep soul path, and something that was not new to my soul. And so I remember just having my eyes open a lot of times in the ceremony, because I was like, I just want to know and learn and understand, and I just wanted to receive all the teachings and the transmission. And so I was just watching everything, and like, there was just something happening that was just so familiar, and also so exciting and new at the same time. And I just wanted to know it all and remember it all, and to feel and embrace everything about the whole ceremonial experience. So, that was in 2009, my first experience, my first ceremony with ayahuasca. And it's 6 years later now, and I probably have sat with the medicine for approximately 200 ceremonies. So it's a lot. That's a lot. And for me, I think this is important too, because I was never one who was attracted to drugs. Because this is a big controversy too with the medicine, is that people are like, it's a drug. I was like, well, it's not really. And if you look at it from a shamanic point of view, and you look at it from, like a holistic point of view, for mind, body, spirit, that, DMT is contained within every living thing. And DMT is in high doses within our own body when we're born, when we die. So the thing is that this is a natural occurring substance in nature. So the thing too is that, it's also based on how things are approached, because anything can become sacred and anything can become a drug. So it's also too that the setting, the place, the ritual of it makes it really sacred and really ceremonial. And I think it's important that people know that It's not a drug. It's an ancient sacred plant medicine that has been used for thousands of years within the jungle, and that she's now making her way out of the jungle in order to help humanity awaken and heal and transform through love instead of fear. So, I mean, I think most people know that are in touch with the cosmos, with spirituality, that we're in a time of quickening, and that the universe, the galaxy, the planet, humanity is changing at rapid rate right now. It's supposedly more rapid than any other time in human history. So there's a lot going on, and we're evolving quickly. So these sacred plant medicines, not just ayahuasca, but the thousands of sacred plant medicines that are in the jungle, are helping humanity transform through love and instead of through fear. And we have a choice. So I think it's important that people recognize that these are ancient traditions, and that it is not, it's not something that you go to a party and do. It's not something that you do unconsciously. It's something that you really enter into very consciously with full respect, and really open up your heart, because ayahuasca is a heart opener, as many of the plant medicines are, and they're here to help you look at the world, your relationships to others and to yourself through the lens of love. And that is such a transforming thing when you think about, I'm going to, look at this argument I had with my partner through the lens of love instead of through my ego. And so that's the main thing that, these plant medicines are really trying to help us do, is to look through the lens of our heart. And that's profound. It's so profound. And years and years and like generations, lineages of baggage that people have, that they are carrying down from one generation to the next generation to the next within their own family system, is getting liberated through even just one ceremony. And I've seen this all the time, where people come and they perhaps come to one of our retreats, or they, they've been in ceremony and they transform. Like they literally release physically, emotionally, mentally, spiritually, these things that are holding them back. And then they can go back to their home, to their communities, to their neighborhoods, to their families, and they can then be a bright shining light. And they can also too live a life that's full of purpose, that's full of love and joy and aliveness. And so then that way they can, the only people we can really truly fix, relative term, is ourselves. Like, we can't control anyone else but ourselves. So if we transform and we work on ourselves, then that can spread to start with your family, then your friends, and then it ripple effects out into the whole entire planet. So, imagine if everyone was, even just for an hour, was doing things through their heart, through love. It would transform the world instantly, I believe. So that is really a huge part of the mission of these sacred plant medicines in this time, in this era, is to help us transform and to help humanity. It's a gift that we've been given, and it is something that, I think that it benefits all of us, and it's amazing. So what I would recommend for first time drinkers, if it's your first time ever sitting in a ceremony, is number one is to make sure the person that is facilitating the ceremony is someone that you have either spoken to on the phone or Skype, or had enough email exchanges that you feel that you understand them, or meet them in person if that's possible. Because it's so important that you trust the person that you're sitting with completely, and that you also feel really, really safe. Because during a ceremony, you're very open. Sometimes you can relive past traumas. So you want to make sure that the person that is facilitating the ceremony is, of super high integrity, that has your best interest at heart, that is, someone that you feel that you can let go. Because also too, the let go process is really important as well. In a ceremony, you want to be able to release things. And so if you're feeling stressed or tight or constricted and you don't feel like you trust the person, then it's going to be harder. Your journey is going to be harder. It just makes sense, because I think pretty much in everything we want to trust the person, any kind of interaction. And this one is one where it's kind of like there's a surgery going on, like a spiritual psychic surgery that's happening with your guides, your angels, the plant medicines. And so, when you think about, like, you wouldn't just trust anyone to, do surgery on your body, then it's the same thing. Anything that's of really high importance, you do want to really trust the person. So that's important, to have some sort of contact with the person or people leading the ceremony so that you feel safe. Also knowing maybe the setting, like where it's going to happen. That's also important, because the setting of a ceremony really can influence the ceremony a lot. So you also want to feel like, what does it look like? Maybe if you can't physically go see it, maybe you can see pictures. So just get a general idea, general vibe. Also, what I tell people, if you're new to this kind of thing or new to spirituality, we all have intuition. We all have our own guidance system within us that connects us to source, to God, to creator, however you define that to be. So it's kind of like a GPS system, right? So, or like a GPS, like a guidance system, I guess you could say. So within us, that's our intuition. And so we can feel when something's not in alignment with our heart, our soul, and we can feel when it is. So I always tell people, let's say they're like, well, I don't even know what my intuition is or how to follow that. What do I do? So I just tell them, if you feel peaceful and calm when you think about sitting with that person, or when you visit their website, or when you talk to them on the phone, if that is what the feeling it is, like you feel centered, calm, peaceful, then that's a yes from your intuition. If you feel constricted, tight stomach, like a little bit anxious, really nervous, then that is your internal guidance system, your intuition telling you that this isn't a good fit. This isn't where you're supposed to be. So that's, those are the ways that you can really differentiate between what is right for you and what's not. And granted, I will say there's a little bit of a caveat. Your first, let's say you drink ayahuasca, you'll get to, let's say, what I'm trying to say is that your first 10 to 50 times drinking ayahuasca, you're going to probably have a lot of nerves and anxiousness. And that is completely normal. So the thing is that I don't want people to think like, oh, my first ceremony or 2 or 3 or 5, I should feel complete peace. No, you'll feel nervous, because it is a huge step that you're taking. You are opening Pandora's box. You are going down the rabbit hole. And so there's a lot of things that are going to be unearthed. And so that can definitely bring up anxiousness and fear and concern. So you just have to know that that's completely normal to feel that way. However, try to differentiate, okay, when I think about this person and I'm sitting with them, my connection to this person, do I feel safe? And do I feel supported? Do I trust this person? Because the feelings of nervousness and anxiousness are pretty much going to be there for many, many, many ceremonies. So just keep that in mind. Also, with preparing for ceremony, diet is a big part of that. So your diet, there's all different lineages. There's all different schools of thought on this, just like anything. There's different lineages of yoga. There's different ways to eat. There's different religions. So there's all, so the thing is that there's not one steadfast rule, is to remember that. However, you do want to do some cleaning before you go to a ceremony. It is important. So for example, for 2 to 3 days prior, you'll want to eat mainly vegetarian. Cut out the sugars, the processed foods, cut out any spicy foods, caffeine, so soda pop and coffee, dairy, really try to either minimize or eliminate completely for at least 2 to 3 days. If you want to do longer, like a whole week cleanse leading up, perfect. That's great, because that will just benefit you more. Because the cleaner you are, the easier it is for the medicine to work on you, because it is a physical thing that's happening as well as an energetic, spiritual thing. But, you do want your body to be pretty clean. And then you'll want to, the date of ceremony, stop eating about 2 or 3, depending on, let's say if the ceremony starts at 9 o'clock at night, you will want to stop eating by 3. So you want at least 5 hours so your stomach can be empty, so that if you do purge, because again, you may not purge by throwing up. There's so many different ways to purge. So if you were to throw up as your purge, it's better to have an empty stomach. It's just easier on your whole body. It's easier on you. It's not as gross. So just to keep that in mind. And then another thing too is no sexual intercourse 2 or 3 days prior and 2 or 3 days after. Because when you think about it, when we that's such a energetic exchange as well as a physical exchange. That person's energy, your partner's energy, will be really intertwined with yours. So it's just nice to have more of a separation, so that you know that you're working on your stuff, and not necessarily. Your partner, boyfriend, husband, whatever, is going to be there anyways, because they are a part of your life, but you kind of just want to separate the energy as best you can prior and after. And then as well, the day after a ceremony, the day or 2 after a ceremony, it's also nice to continue the diet afterwards, because you want to be able to, again, just like gently ease back into eating heavier foods or more grounding foods, because again, the medicine's still working on you after the ceremony. And usually the last 24 hours after the ceremony, you will, it's very common that people experience the medicine still, and they're still integrating the whole experience. So it's just a really gentle, compassionate way to help everything fall back into place easier. So that's important as well. Also, another thing that I recommend is having an intention. So why are you doing this? What is your purpose? What is your reason? What do you want to gain? What do you want to release? And really have a clear indication of why you're doing it. It will be like a driving force. It'll be something that will root in to your experience. It helps to kind of ground the experience. And the thing too is, we joke around, we say that you get what you need, not what you want. So don't be upset if you go to ceremony and you realize wow, well, my intention was this, but my ceremony had nothing to do with that. So what's up with that? So the thing is just to keep in mind that you get what you need, not necessarily what you want. However, I see it as remember that video game, I think it was Tetris or something, where it was from the 80s and Atari, I think, and you'd shoot it up, you would shoot up, and so boxes would fall and the pieces of the puzzle would realign and reconfigure. So in my mind, that's what I see, is that ayahuasca is she's got to chip away and get rid of this big issue in order for this other thing that you want to get to be resolved. So for example, maybe you, you want to find your soulmate, your relationship, you want that piece of your life you're really struggling in. But she first has to get through your relationship with your father or your mother, or your, self-doubt or your self-hatred or something like that, like, so she has to chip through that. Then we can get to the part that you want to see, the results in. So it all makes sense eventually. It may not make sense that night or after that ceremony, but eventually it will make sense. And so, just trusting the process. That's a huge thing too. Trusting the process, surrender. That is one of the biggest things, is to let go and allow yourself to be guided and allow your life to flow. And another thing too, so that was intention. And then another thing that's really great to do before a ceremony is to spend the day in nature if you can. Even if you live in, you have a small backyard or something, just even small backyard, spend the day in nature, or going on a walk in a park or something like that. That's really good to do to help really ground you in and to help just center you. Nature's an amazing way to connect to yourself and to God and to the earth. So that's really important. And then, if you can, have some sort of meditation before you go. So maybe meditate before you go, and then once you arrive at the ceremony, maybe find a quiet spot to meditate again if they don't lead a group meditation beforehand. And just as a way to recenter yourself and connect. And it can be something, and say you don't know, I don't know how to meditate. I've never meditated really ever in my life. Let's say you're at that place. Then just focus on your breathing and just feel the inhale and the exhale. Feel your heart opening. And just imagine that with each exhale, you're breathing into your heart. And that's one beautiful way to focus. Another thing too is to imagine your root chakra really going deep into Mother Earth and really connecting, wrapping around the core of the earth, so you feel really grounded and really centered. So that's another thing too. You can visualize that. Or some people too, nature all around is such great symbology and reminders, like a tree. Imagine you're a tree, and so your roots go super deep into the earth, really powerful and grounded. And then your branches, your leaves are flowing in the wind, really, really effortlessly. So that's a beautiful metaphor right there, is to be a tree. So just, meditate on that, just being a tree, connecting to your breath. And, so the intention, the meditation, really good things. And just also letting go, surrendering. Those are really key points in having a good ceremony. Again, it's not up to any, you have no control over it, but those are the only things that can help it all. It's just to let go, trust, surrender, and breathe. So for me, one of the biggest teachings or lessons that I've received from ayahuasca over the last 6 years is really, I say this is how it was shown to me. And this is another thing too that's so cool, is that ayahuasca knows you intimately. And it's often referred to as a female entity, a female being. And so she knows you intimately. So it's like, your fingerprint. She knows exactly your fingerprint and how you interpret information and what's the best language for you. And she'll develop her own specific, unique language, as unique as your thumbprint, to communicate with you. So it's so beautiful. So how she showed me one time is that, and I see this consistently with everyone that drinks ayahuasca, is that the false layers of who you are really start to fall away. So we are embedded into our own culture, into our own family, into our own religion, into our own school system, all into our own governments. We're born and raised into these energies and into this environment. So it's really hard to see the difference, because it's like trying to see the forest through the trees. You can't when you're in it, you can't see yourself. And so what she does is really helps to create this separation so that you can start to see like, oh, you know what? I actually don't believe that. That was just a belief system that was, embedded into me through the school system I grew up in, or through the church I grew up in, or through my family, or through the government of my country. So what she starts to do is just starts to help you separate and, really look and decide, is that true for me? Does that feel right to my heart, to my soul? Is that in alignment with my soul? So then you can really make choices in your life. Like, you know what? Doing this job is not in alignment with my soul. I know it makes my family happy, but you know what? It doesn't. It makes me feel awful and horrible. So I'm going to arrange my life so that my heart is happy, and hopefully my family will see that I'm a much happier, pleasant person now. And maybe I hope that will bring them joy, So the beautiful thing is like this, how the medicine communicated this to me was that it's like after you take a shower and you look into the mirror, and the mirror's foggy from the steam of the shower. And what she does is she starts to slowly peel away one piece at a time. So all of a sudden, like I see a very hazy picture of my reflection of myself. So then she starts to peel away layer by layer, little things. And then you're like, oh my God, this is my real eyebrow, or my real like chin or mouth, or my real hair, or, what I really want to wear, like expression of clothes, or maybe music, or art of some kind, or jobs, or, everything. I mean, it just filters into your whole life. And so that then your whole life is coming from one focal point, and that's your heart, your soul. And then from that, it really radiates out into all areas of your life. So then you start to look at your whole entire life, and you're like, wow, where I live, what I do for a job, who I'm married to or dating, or, like what I eat, how I spend my time, what I watch or don't watch on TV. All of these things start to come together and make this amazing, like congruent, like seamless piece of your whole entire life. Like it's this amazing thing. And so I see this within myself, and I see this within people all the time, where they're more open-hearted, and so therefore more loving. They are more alive, and everything in their life, it's like you look at that person and you're like, wow, like that fits. Yes, of course they would be married to that person, and of course they would have this house, and of course they would have that job, that work, because it all makes sense, because it's coming from such a true essence of their soul. And so therefore everything is in alignment, and it just flows. So that's one of the biggest things, is that I feel that for my life, and for many that I've seen, is that ayahuasca helps you live the most authentic version of who you are, without all the layers of these conditionings that have happened throughout your whole entire life. And you will be astounded to see how many there are, because there's a lot. And so it's amazing to see that. That's one of the biggest things. And another really beautiful experience that I had in one of my first ceremonies was I was outside, and I was here in Peru in the Andes, and I had a big wool blanket, and I went outside. The ceremony had ended, and I was still really feeling the medicine. And I decided to just lay down in the grass. And so I was just laying wrapped up in this blanket on the grass. My head and ear was on the earth. And I remember feeling oneness, and I had believed it as a mental concept. I'd been doing yoga for many years at that point. And, in yoga, they talk about oneness a lot. So I had, really, I was like, yeah, I do believe in oneness. I accept that. And I was like, okay, cool. So that was on my mental level. But then what happened after that ceremony, ayahuasca dropped what was a mental concept into my heart, and I could feel oneness. It was no longer a mental concept, but an actual direct experience of feeling. And I could feel everything connected to, the blade of grass, to the stars, the moon, to the sun, to the ocean, to the mountains, to the rivers, the rocks, the insects, people alive, dead, throughout the whole span of history. And there was this amazing feeling and connection, and I could feel the earth breathing. Like I literally felt like I was on her belly and just feeling the inhale and the exhale. And I was like, this is oneness. This is what it is that there really is no separation between me and all of these living things, between the person that bags my groceries at the grocery store, to the person, who is taking care of my children, to the person who I pass walking on the street, all these things, like where it's like, to the person that's living in, Syria or in Israel or in Australia or Antarctica, like whatever, to the places that feel the most, far away to you, the most like, I don't have anything in common with these people, or they're so different than me. But you realize that no, like we are so connected. It is so related. And there is this beautiful, mysterious web of life that connects us all, and that we are just humans having a human, like we are souls having a human experience in these human suits, and that we're all brothers and sisters, and that we're all playing out this dream. And so it's just really, it was amazing. That was a huge revelation for me. It was a huge turning point for me. And it's something I'll never forget. So if it's your first time drinking, a lot of people often wonder, what can I expect in ceremony? What's it like? And it's really hard to put words to it. Often we say words can't grasp the experience because it is so, such an expanded state of awareness that it's really hard to put into words. However, we do our best to put them into words. So I would say that, what to expect in ceremony, it really can be anything. A lot of it is based on already what your belief systems are, and what you're going through at this present moment in life. So for example, one time I was sitting next to a guy who played Dungeons and Dragons as a teenager. So he had a total Dungeons and Dragons type of ceremony. And he was like, did you have that? Did you experience any of that? And I was like, no, mine were like angels, and because I have a strong belief in angels. So a lot of it can have to do with what you already believe, like what's already in your subconscious, what's already going on in there. So sometimes it can be Facebook, social media, internet, the commercials off of TV, movies, advertisements. So sometimes there's visions and things that are going on that you're just like, this makes no sense. It is so crazy and weird, and I can't make any sense of it. And so sometimes it's just those type of things being released, and kind of like a brain dump, like major way. So sometimes that can happen. And also it can be like what you're going through presently in your life. So let's say you're going through a really horrible divorce, awful, terrible. Well, most likely that's going to get addressed in ceremony. It's very likely you're going to have to do some work on that because it's so present and it's such a big thing. Or maybe you're like really super newly in love, or just had a baby and super in love with your baby or something. So the thing is that it also can be largely related to what you're going through at the time. So in that case, you could have a super beautiful, amazing blissful experience. And really there's no way for anyone to predict what's going to happen for you. It's different every time. It's unique to each person. And there's really no point in trying to figure it out. There's no point in trying to analyze it. Like, oh, I have to figure this out, because that's just your mind. That's just, just live the experience, go in with an open heart, with trust, and then just let it flow and just be open to what messages come through, and, not try to control it or dictate it. And another thing too is that people, so for example, this is best to explain in an example. So sometimes people want to really understand the visions and make sense of them. So really, it can be, some people might be really gifted at interpreting the visions. I know there's people out there that are. However, it can kind of be like dream interpretation sometimes. But I also recommend that you really tune into what makes sense and what's true for you. I believe that all of us have the capability to really understand and be guided by our inner wisdom. So I really do, through talking to other people about your experience and through integrating it with people who do have more experience than you, of course, you're going to get bits and pieces, and the medicine will be working through these other people to help give you insights into your journey. However, it also has to resonate for you, like anything. If you go see, like a angel therapist, psychic, clairvoyant person that is amazing and wonderful and is really connected, and they give you a beautiful reading, you still have to decipher, is that true for me? Does that resonate? So I always recommend that people, for sure ask for guidance from other people that have more experience, or from the facilitator. However, if it doesn't ring true for you, then just let it unfold naturally. Just, don't take everything someone else says as truth, because you have to find your own truth. That's really important. But for example, I wanted to give you guys an example of to find out if your vision can be translated to this reality, which is something that, it's fun to watch, and it's fun to understand, and it sometimes feels like a funny game that the universe is playing with us. But one thing to find out, if you're, say you have this vision. Okay, so you have this vision, and it is this guy that you like, and you see the vision of you guys start to date, and then you get married, and you have 2 kids, and totally great, happy, and you have this amazing life, and the whole thing unfolds right before you in your ceremony. So the important thing, what to do to really test to make sure that's not your ego or your mind making up things, is to go ask that person. So this guy that you like and that you saw this vision, most likely he's a friend or somebody that knows you. So call him up or invite him over or whatever. And maybe this will be too scary to even say, because maybe it's somebody that you've just met, but try to test it as best you can. And this is how you would do it. You would tell him, you would say, you know what? I sat in an ayahuasca journey last night, and I had this vision that we were together. And, maybe you would say the whole thing, maybe you would just leave it at that. But just at least give him an indication that you saw this vision of the 2 of you together in happily wedded bliss. So then wait to see what his response is. See how he takes that. And so, because the thing is that if he is like, no, I'm sorry, but you're just a really good friend, I love you, but that's it, then, that's one way for you to see that was just a projection of your own mind, of your own wanting, your own desire. So that's a good test, and that's a way, always test it in this reality. So, to see. However, I can totally dismantle that whole theory, well, in a way, is by telling my own personal story where my partner, he did see a vision of us together in a ceremony, and he felt like the medicine was saying pick her, and I was just like in this golden light, and And my presence in that ceremony really helped him through an intense process. So he did, after the ceremony, he did tell me about this, that he's like in the medicine, did this. And I was just like, oh man, like this guy that I just met, 5 hours ago is hitting on me. Like, because in my interpretation, I felt like it was, like we were at a bar, and I was just like, oh my God, we're in a sacred ceremony. So that was my own perception. He, of course, has a totally different perception, which I totally honor. But the thing is 4 years later, we are totally happily in love together, sharing our lives, and have been together for 2 years. And I foresee that, we'll grow very old together. So the thing is that, it could be true, and it could be like a premonition, like a vision that's going to manifest, but it might take 4 or 5 years. So that could happen. But so keep living your life, don't stop living your life. Keep living your life. But it also could totally be your own projection, and that guy you are never going to be with him. So it's just some way to try to navigate it. It can be a little bit tricky. I mean, it's not clear cut. I think that it does take time to understand, and it takes, really listening and feeling into your own heart as well. So that's important to just let it unfold also, and don't try to force or make anything happen. So, it's largely about letting things organically unfold and trusting your own inner wisdom. So there's many different ways to purge in ceremony, and some common ones are throwing up, diarrhea, crying, shaking, really hot, really cold, sweating. You could potentially purge through talking or laughing, or maybe you need to walk, or something like that. So there's many different ways that you can purge, or maybe even after ceremony, you'll want to journal. Like that could also be a purge. So there's many different ways that you can purge. And some people, one of people's biggest kind of objections or concerns is like, oh, throwing up, and I don't want to throw up. And I've had such bad, they have bad memories of throwing up from being sick. So, but it is different. For one thing, you are mentally, physically preparing for the ceremony. So you're changing your diet. You're eating really light the day of. You're stopping eating at 2 or 3 in the afternoon, so you have an empty stomach. So there's a whole other energy around it. When you're sick, you're sick and it's awful and you feel terrible. But when you're entering into ceremony, it's you're preparing for this. And so when you throw up, it's generally, it can be all different if you throw up, because again, if you don't throw up, nothing's gone wrong. You might be purging a different way. So it's important not to get attached to like, oh, I have to throw up, or, So just allowing, yourself to experience it however it comes up for you, and don't go searching, just let it flow. So, but the thing is, with throwing up in ceremony, it's generally, it can be a little bit of a struggle sometimes if you're struggling with, because you literally throw up or release in all those different ways what you're getting rid of, like an emotional thing, or maybe you had trauma from your childhood and your dad kicked you in the back, or you, were bullied on the playground, or, it could be so many different things that happen to us, right, throughout the course of our life. So what is happening is when you throw up or have diarrhea or cry or shake, you are physically releasing that trauma from your body and clearing it also from your mind, your emotions, just your whole entire field. So it's an important part of the ceremony is to have that release and to have that physical letting go. So most of the time you may like feel nauseous or a little uncomfortable leading up to a purge, because in the beginning she's doing a lot of cleaning on you. But then once you release it, then you feel so much better. I mean, it's like night and day. You feel so much lighter, clearer, and you can oftentimes, when you're purging, you can, you know what you're releasing. You know that you are getting rid of this specific event that happened to you. And so then you can see like, oh, I'm releasing that. I'm getting rid of that. So it feels amazing. So, you know, like, and I mentioned this earlier about the day after the ceremony is to, you know, really go into nature, be gentle with yourself, eat light, still continue to eat fruits and vegetables, because that's just going to help blend everything together really well. And you know, we also offer 7-day juice cleanses, and that will take you even deeper into what I like to call a shamanic juice cleanse, because it's just, that's the energy that I most resonate with. And so it's the energy that comes into the retreats the most obvious. And so it's a way to really cleanse on the whole mind, body, spirit. And anytime you take away food for 7 days, you are going to see profound shifts in all areas of your being and of your life. And because when you think about it, when we're first born, within, you know, an hour of our first breath, we're receiving our mother's milk, you know, nutrients, we're receiving food. So there's so many different attachments that we have with food. So even just taking that out of your life for 7 days, it's going to bring up so much stuff. And it also, when you take away food, it helps to, you know, like you can't suppress it. You can't numb it anymore. Because even if we have a decent relationship with food, our connection to food, we still can suppress our emotions by eating. Even if it's a healthy meal, even if it's just an apple, if we're feeling an emotional, you know, if we're having a big emotion, if we've just had a fight with someone and then we go and eat something, that can suppress it, that can push it back down. It can make us disconnect from that emotion, potentially. So it's amazing to watch all the transformations that take place in just 7 days. And we also incorporate daily yoga and meditation and discussions. Like one of our most popular discussions is emotional connection to food. So it goes through and we discuss things like what was sitting at mealtime in your family like when you were growing up. And it's amazing to watch the answers, because some people are like, it was connection, it was great, it was awesome, it was a way for us all to come together at the end of the day and share. And then there's other people that are like, horrible, like the worst, like the worst part of their day. It was, you know, like, you know, you're seeing, like some people grew up in the time when children are seen and not heard. Maybe their father is kind of, you know, really angry and the mother resents cooking, you know, like all this stuff. Like it's amazing to see what happens, and that's what's imprinted into you when you're younger. So it's amazing to uncover that stuff. And, you know, we connect with nature and do all sorts of things that just really help to bring different elements into it and helping people to really move the energy out. And I'm in constant awe of watching spirit move and, you know, watching people transform literally right in front of my face. It's like so amazing, phenomenal. And it's such a joy and a passion of mine. And it helps me a lot too, to heal from a surgery. So I also feel like, you know, the whole reason why I do it is because I had an ovarian cyst the size of a like softball or, you know, grapefruit. And I had 2 surgeries to remove it. And then I, you know, was like hobbling around because it was my core muscles that were cut. So if I sneezed, coughed, laughed, cried, it was like intense searing pain in my abdomen. or if I even turned my head like this, or if I raised my arm like this, I could feel it. It was just like a hot coal, like somebody putting a hot coal into my stomach. And so a friend told me, he said, like most of your body's energy is used in digesting food. That's one of the primary jobs of your body, and it's constantly having to digest food. So if you take away solid food for 1 week and just drink really nutrient-dense juices and veggie broth, and take like psyllium husk and bentonite clay and, colonics and stuff to help move out the toxins as well, and saunas, then you can really flush out so many of the toxins. Because I just had surgery, so I had, anesthesia, morphine, some of the painkillers that I stopped taking after the first day because they made me feel worse. So I had all these things that I needed to get rid of in my body. And so that's what I did. I did a 7-day cleanse. The first 3 days were horrible, and I felt like I had the flu, and I felt like I was never going to get better. I would throw up in the morning on the first 3 days because I was releasing the drugs that were put into my body for surgery. And by the 3rd day I had my emotional meltdown and cried and thought that, I was never going to have my healthy body back. But I trusted the process. I kept trusting the process. I kept showing up. And then by the 7th day, I was moving like I did before the surgery. And I was moving, I was agile, and I was glowing and clear and felt 100% better. So for me, that was such a clear example that doing a cleanse, is nice. Like, once a year or once every couple of years, or doing, even, 1 day just drinking juices. So that's why I feel such a passion to facilitate retreats, because I saw the results within me, and it helped me transform so many things about my life, about my connection to food, about what I eat. And it's just amazing. So that's one thing that I highly recommend, is to do a cleanse. Another service I offer is transformational life coaching. And why, again, I feel the call for this is because I can see that there's a need for it, especially to help people integrate their ceremonies. So that's a big part of it, is I'm there to help them, coach them through it, talk them through it, integrate their experiences. I get it. I can speak in that language of the medicine. I can understand when they tell me about their ceremony or their vision. I know what that's like, opposed to somebody that's never experienced it and cannot relate, obviously. So that's one thing, is just really helping them. So, and for example, maybe they did see, like, I saw this vision of myself working in a totally different career and doing something completely different with my life. So then I can actually help them do practical things, and hold them accountable to making that a reality. And it would just move faster, because you're having someone there walking beside you step by step, holding you accountable. And then you can see progress. And not that it couldn't happen without a coach, obviously, but it can just help you navigate through that in a much more effortless pace, much more systematic or guided, but also, of course, allowing room for the transformation, for the intuition, for the mystery of life. It's, because I'm definitely about, allowing that to happen. I don't want to be completely in my mind or systematic, because sometimes life's current just takes you a certain way, and you have to honor that. So we work with both of those things. And then also too, even, helping people prepare, say they are going to do ceremonies, so helping them prepare, or just even life changes. It doesn't, and maybe the person has no desire to ever sit in an ayahuasca ceremony, which is also fine. It can, be any kind of life situation, really, because it's just taking the whole person and holding space for them to access their own inner wisdom, asking them really powerful questions so that they can decipher and find the truth for themselves within themselves, and really helping them to peel away the different layers so that they can live a life that they're really excited about, that they jump out of bed for in the morning, that they feel in alignment with. So, and I have a degree in psychology. And so I saw, and I never pursued that because I didn't want to be, I'm not so mainstream. I'm more spiritual, like free spirit. So I feel that coaching is such a beautiful way for me to connect to that. Also, another passion, another love of mine is, helping people and counseling them or coaching them, supporting them. So I feel like coaching is such a beautiful way that I can really harness my different gifts that I have and then translate that into helping other people. So yeah, it's a big pleasure of mine. So my soul purpose, I feel, is to be a bridge. That's one of my main roles in this life, and to be a light. Those are the two things that really are consistent, that always show up in my life. And so I feel like those are playing out beautifully, very naturally and organically. And I really enjoy helping people through intense processes. I really enjoy helping people transform and feel really comfortable in their own skin. That's really important because that's all that matters. I mean, you can not fit into the box that society wants you to fit into, but if you feel comfortable in your own skin, then that's all that really matters, I think, is that you feel that connection. And I've definitely gone through a lot of challenging times in my life and experienced some things that were really intense, and it makes us who we are. And I think too, to have somebody that can help you maneuver through that, then it makes all the difference. So and just also too, to just follow our bliss, right? That's, I think, the greatest gift that we can give. And I feel that if all of us are following our bliss, then that's where it's at. That's what is so important in this world. So, and again, if one person follows their bliss, it gives other people permission to follow their bliss. So I think that is also part of my soul purpose. Thank you so much.